Welcome back to our meditative art color series. Today we are painting this beautiful purple iris. Every color carries a quiet intention, and today's intention is intuition. And purple reminds us to slow down, to become quiet enough to hear the gentle voice within. Because our intuition rarely competes with the noise of the mind, until we become still enough to listen, we will not be able to feel it. So today don't worry about creating the perfect flower. Just bring your attention to the intention and let's create peacefully. This is the reference image I've taken and I have sketched in my A4 cold pressed watercolor book. For this painting, I'm just using two colors. I'm beginning with Dioxazine Purple. First, I wet each petal with clean water. This entire painting is done using the wet on wet technique. Once the paper is evenly wet, I drop in a very light wash of Dioxazine Purple and allow the pigment to flow naturally. If needed, I soften it with a little more clean water. Depending on the size of the petal, I switch brushes. Most of the time I'm using a Skoda size 4, but for the smaller details I move to a size 1 brush. If the petal is large, just like the one we are doing now, I don't wet the entire petal at once. Instead, I wet only one half, apply the color, and then continue with the other half. This helps me maintain better control over the water and the pigment. Now this first layer is simply about establishing the base wash. Petal by petal, you will see me repeating the same process, occasionally adding tiny hints of yellow around the intricate edges of the iris where I can see them in the reference. Now while the petal is still damp, not soaking wet, but just beginning to settle, I switch to my size 1 brush and this is where I began painting the delicate veins of the iris. If the paper is too wet, the lines disappear completely. And if it is too dry, the lines become sharp and harsh. So I wait for just the right moment. I mix a slightly darker value of Dioxazine Purple, just 1 or 2 values deeper than the base color. I want them to melt gently into the petal, becoming part of it rather than sitting on top of it. Over the next few minutes, you will see me repeating the same process, doing the base wash and applying the veins on top of the petal. And for this petal, after applying the base wash, you will see me waiting for 30 seconds before adding the veins. I don't paint while the paper is soaking wet. I wait until it becomes slightly damp because at this stage the pigment doesn't spread as much and the veins softly merge into the first wash. The timing may vary depending on the paper you're using. I'm painting on 100% cotton watercolor paper and this technique works beautifully because the paper holds moisture for much longer. If you enjoy watercolor like I do, I genuinely encourage you to invest in a good quality cotton paper whenever you can. For a long time I practiced on inexpensive paper because I felt I should earn the better materials first. But looking back, I wish I had made this change a lot sooner. Good paper doesn't make you a better artist overnight, but it does allow you to understand how watercolor is truly meant to behave. As you can see, it holds water beautifully, it gives you more time to paint the veins on the flower, and it makes the learning much more enjoyable experience. And since we do meditative art, we are all about the process and not at the output. Because only during the process you can keep your intention alive, and when your intention is alive, you can really get into the space of stillness. As I continue, you will notice that I don't paint two neighboring petals one after the other. Instead, I move to an alternate petal. This gives the previous one enough time to dry, preventing the colors from bleeding too much into each other. Because some petals are lighter, some are deeper, some catch more light than the others, and this variation is what gives the iris its beauty. Let's talk about our intention for some time. Following the same process as how we are not so different from iris, we often compare ourselves to others, wondering why our journey doesn't look the same. Similarly, like how each petal of the iris looks different. Because each one unfolds in its own way, and maybe we can offer ourselves the same kindness because intuition begins when we stop comparing and start listening to our own quiet rhythm instead. Coming back to our painting, and now that the first layer has completely dried, I begin the second layer. This time I'm not covering the entire petal. I'm simply increasing the values wherever I see the shadows in the reference image. Because these subtle layers are what slowly gives iris its depth and softness. Wherever the second layer has dried, I am moving to add the final touch. Using Quinacridone Magenta, I place small highlights wherever I see that beautiful pink glow in the petals. It's only a hint of color, but it brings life to the painting. So, summarizing, there are only three simple stages in this artwork. The first is a gentle wet on wet wash and adding delicate veins while it is damp. The second is adding few contrast and strengthening the shadows. And the third is placing a few touches of quinacridone magenta to create warmth and highlights. That's all. So sometimes we imagine that beautiful things must be complicated, but it is often that it's created through a few simple steps repeated with patience. Over the next few minutes, let's place ourselves in complete silence and follow the same steps onto the next flower. In this silence, let's try and bring our intention and improve our energy towards intuition. All it takes to remain silent and bring awareness around that energy. I'm not asking you to stay silent in your conversations or stop expressing yourself. I'm inviting you to create small moments of inner silence because many of us spend our days thinking, planning, worrying, and reacting. But intuition doesn't usually arrive in the middle of the noise. It gently appears when the mind becomes quiet enough to notice it. Perhaps through this painting and perhaps through this meditative art series, we allow ourselves to simply, quietly sit with ourselves for a few minutes each day. As we finish the painting, we come to the stems. I use a light wash of green gold, adding just enough color to keep the focus on the beautiful purple iris. Adding also a little bit of yellow to gain the highlights of the stem. And coming back to our intention, it is something that we cultivate one quiet moment at a time. It cannot be rushed. Intuition grows gently. Like any other practice, this takes time. Thank you for painting with me today. I hope this wasn't just a watercolor lesson. I hope it became a few quiet moments that you gifted yourself. And until we meet again in our next meditative art color series, may you slow down and stay present. Thank you.